to episode 357 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Weekly podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and this week's topic is a continuation of last week. We are doing a full episode on Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Wille zur Macht, and to talk about the themes and the story and the conclusions and a lot about Albedo in this episode. And we were joined by the same panel as last week. In addition to me, there is Tyler Trosper.
Hey again.
Zach Wilkerson.
Hello.
And Peter Triezenberg.
Back by unpopular demand. It's me.
So, Peter, Tyler, Zach, I have a confession to make. I was unable to finish this game in time for the podcast. We are recording this in the middle to second half of December, and I have had some kind of task to take care of, or work, or social engagement, like every single day the past few weeks. I've barely played any video games, and so I sort of gave up a couple days ago. I was unable to finish Xenosaga episode 1. I feel really bad. I was on a nice little streak there of finishing every game I played for the podcast for around 2 years. I think it was like fall or December of 2020 was the last time I
think it was
failed to do
Eternal
it.
Punishment, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was Eternal Punishment. Was that 2020 or 2021?
I think it was 21, but I
Yeah,
can't
you're
remember.
right. You're right. You know what? I think that was the last one I messed up on. You're right. But I had a pretty good run recently. Like I've played 11 games for the podcast in the last 6 months, because we had a couple months of multiple games in 1 month. But I wasn't able to do this one, and it was not because I wasn't interested in the game. It was just because I knew I had 20 plus hours ahead of me, and stuff kept piling up, and I just realized early that I wouldn't be able to finish it. But that was not true of one of us. Zach, you told me not long ago that you did finish this one a day or two ago, and
Yeah.
what were your overall impressions?
So I ended up enjoying it a lot. I know, and we'll talk a lot about all the things that are wrong with the game design here. But I think, in particular, as you hit the midpoint, and we'll talk about this later, there are these flashback scenes with Shrenkov, which I think are really beautiful and really interesting. And then when that happened, I was like, all right, I'm here for it. And then as the cutscenes started piling up, and and we'll talk about this more later as well, I felt like I had like a better vision of what the mystery box was here. I understood sort of like what it is we need to discover, and once I figured that out, I was able to sort of distinguish, like, okay, these are the UTIC people, these are the Federation people, and kind of figure out what their real motives were, at least to some degree. Obviously we don't know all of them yet. And also, like, in the second half of the game, you end up spending a lot more time in dungeons, which, some people would argue is a bad thing because the gameplay in this game is frustrating. But as I started getting into the latter third of the game, I sort of understood the combat system well enough to just sort of like blow my way through everything. I got like the ultimate spell that like insta kills the final boss, and I was like, I don't need that. And the final boss didn't even get a turn on me, so yeah.
You beat it without Urderkaiser?
Yeah, I had it, and I was like, screw it, I don't need it.
Nice.
Just boosts your friend in this game. Just boost and boost and boost. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I think that there are a lot of things that you can see Takahashi playing with that he does way better later. But I think that the story here might end up being better by the time I get to the end than even like some of the Xenoblade stuff that I really enjoy.
You were talking about those flashbacks with Cherenkov, and I definitely want to talk about those. That's around where I stopped playing the game, and then I ended up watching those cutscenes with him multiple times. Because, sorry, this is skipping ahead a little bit. I would not have believed you if, like, well, how do I phrase this? The stuff on the Voglinda at the beginning of the game, you meet Cherenkov and who he is. It surprised me that we got a mini arc and a large amount of backstory out of him, of all people, because he seems like a very low level early game villain that might be thrown away after a boss fight or something, but they go pretty deep into him. Uh, and and like the stuff with Cherenkov and other characters like Margulies and Virgil, I really think like they even though we don't see like a ton of backstory or presence of those characters in this game, but I feel like there are pages and pages of notes about these guys that didn't make it into the game. Again, Xenosaga does sort of have a lot behind the curtain, but I feel like that they didn't even get all they wanted to into this game. There's a lot that they were holding back, and like we mentioned this in the previous episode, this was originally devised as 6 games, ended up being 3. But I can sort of see how they had enough material that they wanted 6. It feels like a bigger game than it actually is, and sometimes that's annoying because it feels like there's too much that they aren't explaining or aren't telling you. But other times it feels it's really intriguing because you get the feeling that this is a huge, richly detailed world that we're only getting a glimpse of. Peter, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I know that you, like me, were unable to finish the game, but did watch a lot of cutscenes. Did
Yeah.
what was your uh, overall impression of this game and the world it was trying to build?
Yes, unfortunately, Sollosi is not the only one. He does not get to do the walk of shame alone. But for me, I'm with you on that. I think Xenosaga's world is very richly detailed. I think that this game does a very good job of setting up interesting mysteries and intriguing, and doing its world building. I think is actually done fairly well, at least as far as establishing, okay, these are the basic core tenets of how this universe works. You get a lot of background on the different organizations, how their version of space travel works. It's all very space opera-y, and I really vibe with that. And the broad strokes of the story I do find very interesting, even if I do agree as well that I think the game sometimes maybe under explains things a little bit. I'm definitely a little confused about things like the Song of Nephilim and the role of the URTVs, which I'm sure that they'll get into in the later episodes. But as it stands, this does feel a lot like the pilot episode, like maybe of a longer series.
Yeah, the different proper nouns in this game and the level of techno babble really made my head hurt. You could probably detect a little bit of that in the previous episode, but like, how the Song of Nephilim is a spaceship and a psychic song like thing, and how it suddenly like like multiplies by 10 in size and said, "Oh no, the Song of Nephilim has Voltroned with the Proto Merkaba," and it's like, what? There's the
I love how that's actually basically what they said.
yeah, and when that happens, it's like, has anyone said the words Proto Merkaba in this game at all until this moment?
This game also likes to do the Evangelion thing, where just every so often they'll start describing something and they'll throw in a reference to like some, oh yeah, oh no, it's the headquarters of the organization, Labyrinthos. And I'm just like, the zone from Final Fantasy 14, what? um uh
Or or the time in Cosmos and Cephalon where they're like, you have to go to Milsha, and that's why. And she was like, that's why you'll find out when you go to Milsha. And I was
Yeah,
like,
the little girl. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, you'll find out later." I'm like, "I want to find out now. Why are you
we
withholding
we
from me?"
we
It's
haven't
like we
written
need to
this
go to
part of the
Milsha.
script yet, you guys.
Now, sorry, this is episode 3. There is a point. Not not really spoilers, but there is a point where Shion tells off Nephilim, and it's like, stop being so cryptic. It's hilarious. It just like
That's
I
very
like
breaks.
that.
funny.
Yeah, it's probably
I'm
deserved
glad
It is.
if she's this cryptic for 2.5 games.
Oh yes.
I'm,
Oh yes.
I'm glad that they're at least self-aware enough to admit that, though.
Yes. It was great.
They are not nearly self-aware enough in this game, though. I mean, it's like, again, sort of how light is both a particle and a wave. I really think the Song of Nephilim is both a space station and like an evil psychic psychic brown note. And I don't know if Udo is a person or an organization or like an evil force pervading the entire universe. I know that Kukai, the Federation, UTIC, and Vector are all different organizations, but I was definitely mixing up who is part of what, and who is a mole of what in what between all
Yeah.
4 of those.
I mean, I
Like,
think that Kukai was created, I don't know, the
the,
URTVs at least were created to take down Udu. And then
Yes.
when they try to do that, they play the song, right? I please correct me if I'm wrong on this. And then most of the URTVs go absolutely insane, like Albedo, for example. and that's why Junior takes his link out because they're going insane, I think.
Well, okay. Kukai is a separate entity that used to be a department within the Federation, but they split
Yeah.
off and became a separate entity, and their side businesses made enough money to fund their main goal of collecting as many Zofar emulators as they could. It's run by two guys who are both named Gagnum, but one of whom does not age, so he names himself Junior. They are both URTVs, which are super soldiers that were created to defeat Udu. Again, not a very intimidating name for something that is pretty scary. But when the Song of Nephilim, which again is both a space station and a song, starts playing, it drives different types of life forms insane, or and possibly can control or manipulate them, and out of fear, Junior, who again is one of these super soldier URTVs, like unplugs himself, and so which detaches him from his brothers, one of whom was Albedo, and Albedo becomes uh enveloped somehow by the evil force Udo, which makes Albedo an ascended being of some kind under the influence of Udo, and he seizes control of the Song of Nephilim. Oh my god, I know that wasn't 100% correct, but I was in the right ballpark, and if
Yeah.
that sounds confusing, then it's because it's confusing. There's just so many different puzzle pieces moving around the board that I was definitely losing track of them. Um, and URTVs, Realians, and cyborgs like Ziggy
They're all
are
different
all,
things.
yeah, they're all
Hmm.
different artificial life forms, and even the mutated human, like what Cherenkov is. They were all different kinds of entities that were given similar purpose, because they were created to, for either war or to complete tasks that were difficult or risky for humans. But they all have like different levels of rights and are treated by society in different ways. And even in the trial flashback that you see that Cherenkov's in, they've referenced different laws and statutes that affect the people differently. Like what we mentioned in the previous episode, that Realians do have like a level of humanity that allows them to participate in human society that Ziggy doesn't, and Cherenkov maybe does, but because he's a mutant, he's stigmatized badly, and it appears like he was like seduced into a sham marriage with his lawyer. Did I misinterpret that?
No, you're spot on because she had no interest in him. She basically wanted to get permission to clone herself, and that's why she kind of married Cherenkov and
Okay,
put up with him.
we're gonna roll this way back, because where we left off was basically at the introduction of the character of Junior. So we've met the six main playable characters, but they haven't quite met each other yet. Siggy and Momo are on the run from UTIC, which is the terrorist organization. Uh, uh, while on the Elsa, which is the scavenger ship that picked up Cheyenne, Cosmos, and Alan. Chaos is a crew member on the Elsa. I can't believe I remembered Alan, because he's the most forgettable schmuck in just about any
It's
Oh,
kind of
PS2
his role,
RPG.
right?
Apparently, he does something awesome in episode 2, and I don't believe it.
It's
that's more episode 3 than episode 2.
I
Okay,
I
still.
felt so annoyed by Alan. Like, I know he's supposed to be like an unremarkable human commenting as a voice of sanity on the events around him,
Hmm.
but he was such a, oh my god, he was such a sad sack that I wanted to tell him to shut the hell up. It's I mean, I only played half of the game, and I was already 300% done with Alan. But but anyway, like, we're introduced to Junior, who again is an executive in the Kukai Foundation, which is, again, used to be a government entity. Now it's a science and tech entity that makes its money from by running like a tourism operation, where they can like simulate beaches and weather of any kind. Basically, they run a giant resort, which is, again, is kind of crazy. And they is at one point they revealed to Shion, like, oh yeah, we have 12 Zohar emulators here, and they're all named after Jesus's 12 apostles, which I don't know why that is, although I'm sure there's a reason for it. We're all over the place, but yeah, Junior was on a ship called the Durandal, but I think they don't know that it's named after the Song of Roland, so they so they pronounce it weird. They call it the Durandal, I think. I don't know, that just makes me think of the basketball player Julius Randle, Julius Durandal. But he's on a ship full of women, and that and he's a superhero with a giant robot and like spaghetti western magnum pistols. Junior is so extra.
Can say you're right. Junior's awesome.
He gets his aesthetic from watching like action movies from and reading western novels from the distant past. It's like sure you do, guy. But eventually all of these people cross paths. Junior is again, he's an executive at the Kukai Foundation, and the crew of the Elsa works for the Kukai Foundation as sort of a scavenger and smuggler of sorts. So these groups all manage to meet together at the Durandal, and then eventually at the Kukai Foundation resort area. But then there's a sting operation that I'm not sure I totally understand, so correct me if I'm wrong here. um uh, the Kukai Foundation, Junior's ship, before they meet up with Zion, they had a clash with Utic, and that but then after the Durandal returns to Kukai, Utic doctors footage of their battle to make it appear that Kukai attacked Federation ships when really it was Utic ships that did that. So that prompts a Federation seizure and investigation of a bunch of Kukai stuff as a means to maybe seize control of Cosmos and Momo, because Cosmos is a government super project and Momo has sensitive data buried in her memory banks.
Yeah, it's primarily to get Momo since she has the data left behind by her father, Yoki Mizrahi.
Right. So,
Who they
but
view as he's a seditionist, essentially.
yeah, Joaquin Mizrahi, he seems to be in between a seditionist and a terrorist and a cult leader, because he was the founder of UTIC. He used to be a top scientist within the Federation, but when we see him in when they jump into Cosmos's memory and they sort of navigate a memory world that is mostly the planet Milsha from 14 years ago. Oh god, this is so bonkers. That we see Mizrahi in action, and it sounds like the words of a delusional cult leader. But it seems like he's probably influenced by Udu, or maybe he just saw the center of the universe and went mad, or but we do know that he knows more about artificial intelligence and the nature of some of Zohar better than just about anybody, and he hid a lot of his findings inside Momo's memory bank. So everybody from UTIC to the Federation to probably Vector wants to get inside Momo's memories, and a lot of the game is sort of protecting Momo from these outsiders. But yeah, like I know I'm just rambling because I'm trying to make sense of this, but Zach or Peter, like, were you as half following, half confused as I am, or am I just out of my depth here? Because both could be
I
true.
think I think again, so this is just speaking as someone. I don't like this game. I don't, and from a gameplay perspective, I think it is. I think it is slow. I think it is archaic. I think it is very poorly explained about how to actually develop your characters and how to make the combat like work. And I get really tired of hearing the same battle theme every single battle, and it just But I do think the story actually is fairly, I don't want to say well told, because it does overindulge in flashbacks and maybe play its cards a little too close to the chest. That being said, I do think the general basic interactions between the different factions, I think, is fairly well explained. You do definitely get, okay, the Federation is like the main Earth government. The Kukai Foundation is kind of a splinter faction that does its own thing, and the government doesn't like them right now. They have an uneasy truce. The UTIC organization is like the terrorist cult group that is like up to no good. And then all the other stuff that they're talking about, okay, they're referring to some kind of mysterious force called Udu. They're talking about trying to find out whatever this Joachim Mizrahi guy was working on. What is actually inside Momo's brain that everyone is so obsessed with? What is the deal with albedo and the URTVs? All that stuff. I feel like, okay, this feels like we are setting up mysteries for future games. We are trying to plant seeds that will develop into future installments and hopefully keep enough of our audience around that they will want to see the conclusion to this story.
Yeah.
Presumably because they either like Xenogears and they are want to see what, because this was not, I don't, again, we didn't really touch on this too much, but Xenogears ending on the end of episode 5 note sort of sent everyone into a tizzy back in the day, and this is supposed to be the rest of that story, except not
Mm,
really because they don't have the rights to it anymore. Am I that far off the mark, Tyler?
I mean, sort of, but the timelines don't really match up too well. But it borrows a lot of the Perfect Works stories
Yeah.
from Xenogears, but
Yeah, like we took ideas that we were developing for Xenogears and sort of are trying to expand on them.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Sollosi, as I think I've shown already this episode, like I'm not sure that I had, even by the end, necessarily a great grasp on all these interrelations. I get tired of that sort of thing. But I guess for me, like as a person who's played enough, I guess Takahashi games, like I understand that first of all, like I guarantee like most of this infighting is irrelevant, right? Like there's something like sort of over it. Like the dude who's in charge of Vector clearly is probably one of the significant big bads, or someone who has not a big bad necessarily, but someone who has a lot more knowledge. And there are all these people who have a lot more knowledge. And sometimes when they don't share that knowledge, it gets frustrating, I guess, for me. But I guess the thing that compelled me about the story, and I just kind of accepted, like I allowed it to kind of wash over me. I'm like, oh, techno babble, whatever. Was actually the flashback stuff was what really worked for me. Like in that idea, and then I feel like there's this idea of the intersection of memory and identity, and also just like who gets to control your identity in a lot of really interesting ways, like in terms of
mhm,
Momo, a little bit with Shion, even like with Cosmos, and like
mhm,
who is she really? Does she have empathy or not? And that idea of like who gets to decide who you are, I think is really interesting. And so I guess I was just sort of engaging with it on like an emotional and thematic level, and I just
mhm.
sort of allowed the rest of it to sort of wash over me because I'm like, I know I'll understand this more later. Was sort of my approach to it.
I think that Zach and Peter, both of you are being very fair here, and I was mostly concerned that I was being unfair because I find a lot of the drama of this game, things like some of the big action cutscenes and some of the important flashbacks and the internal struggles of specific characters. I think a lot of that is really good. I just think that they are juggling so many balls at once here with the different with again I'm not exaggerating 5 or 6 different types of synthetic human and 4 or 5 major organizations politicking between each other. They're just doing so much at once that I found it a little bit confusing to follow who was who. And when there was the sting operation on Kukai and the woman in charge of the sting ended up being a Kukai mole, I just sort of threw my hands up in the air. It's like, oh my Jesus, this is like Infernal Affairs of the or the Departed or something. It's
Yeah,
like everyone is secretly someone else.
betrayals within betrayals.
Yeah, yeah, but so sometimes that's fun, but I think that I just felt like they were trying to do a lot and not totally pulling it off. And then the reason I sort of fell off and knew I wasn't going to finish was because like in between the good parts of Xenosaga, sometimes the combat I felt was really tedious. It's like there's not a lot of dungeons in this game, but the last one I was in was sort of overlong, and I
Oh,
and I
that's a theme for the rest of the game.
yeah. So like I don't know, like I think that this game has so many cool ideas, but it is a victim of sort of underexplained action and poorly paced dungeons. But I want to hopefully finally talk about this guy. Like the part of the game where I was most invested was a little bit past where we stopped last time, and we learn about Cherenkov. We mentioned him before. I was sort of surprised that he was given as much depth of character as he was for being basically a mid-game and antagonist. But the fact that he was a human that had an edited genome or was specifically mutated to be a super soldier, but then when the war was over, he was the super soldiers of his type were called mutants and stigmatized. But then the lawyer, who was a woman, that defended him in court and allowed him and sort of and gave him some more human rights and human citizenship, ended up betraying him because she wanted a license to be able to have children, but didn't want to have she didn't want to pass on Cherenkov's mutant DNA, the way as she put it. Like that was such a weird specific drama that could only happen in a setting like this. And then Cherenkov goes a little bit postal and kills her, but then is adopted into Utic by Margulies, and Utic, a role within Utic, gives him purpose in that he was searching for, that he thought he could find in marriage or outside of war, but ultimately he goes there instead. Like the struggle of Cherenkov felt like exactly the kind of story I wanted out of this game, but instead they sort of give you 7 or more plot threads that aren't all resolved in this game, that just left me this game left me wanting, like, really, this game left me very interested but also wanting more, in a way that I found frustrating more than exciting sometimes. So like I don't know, I think I really could have loved this game if either the action was snappier, or they explained some of the background a little better. But because they didn't do either of those things, I was left sort of listless and confused sometimes. So I don't think I hate this game. I just I'm just a little bewildered, and wished it was a little bit more modern in its storytelling ideas. And Tyler, I'm sorry, I really do not mean to make this as an insult
Oh,
to you, because
oh
I know
no, yeah.
this is among your favorite games of all time, but this game's got problems.
No, yeah, I completely agree. It does have its problems. I still, I don't know. I basically what Zach said earlier. Just um, I was just really loved like the different themes of identity and the characters, and I really love the mystery box, even if it's chock full of too many mysteries. But I, yeah.
Yeah, I
J.J.
mean,
Abrams probably really loves Xenosaga. I'm just putting that on out
yeah.
there.
Yeah, Damon Lindelof is definitely a fan. You
Oh yeah.
know, the Trenkov thing gets. I think that it is actually like it's probably my favorite sequence in the entire game. Like I really like some of
Oh,
the
it's so
stuff
good.
on
It's
Milsha.
really good.
Agreed.
It felt like that entire arc could have been its own game.
Yeah, like the Encephalon like all the stuff on Encephalon, I thought was really interesting. All the cutscenes you got there, and I like a lot of the stuff towards the end. Like I was genuinely like moved when Cosmos was like maybe sacrificing herself. But I think that the thing with Trenkov gets to like some of the thematic concerns of this game, maybe more explicitly than anything. That because I like I've always heard like, oh, it's like Nietzsche, like it's about like the human drive to the will to power. And you certainly see that with like some of these political schemes. Like I feel like I'm watching Star Wars Episode 1 occasionally with
Yeah,
some of these political
didn't they
scenes.
even call him an Ubermensch at one point?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
so it's like extremely Nietzsche, just
right.
even beyond the subtitle of the game.
Very on the nose, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that Trenkov is like the most perfect sort of encapsulation of that idea. Like his will to like be who he chooses to be. Like he eventually, obviously, the stuff he's doing with Margulies is like probably evil. I don't really know, maybe. But it gets to that idea of him choosing who he gets to be, him getting to choose his own path in a way that is truthful to him. And Margulies is honest with him, and like he goes with that. And that idea that he can latch on to something like that, and it makes him like the most sympathetic character in the game. Which, if you had told me that in the first 2 hours, I wouldn't have believed you, right? So I think that
Right.
it's such compelling character work, and I really look forward to seeing what they can do when we know more about it. Because I feel like Trenkov is the one character who we got their full arc. Now let's see what these other full arcs are like as well. Because if they
Mhm.
can do this that well, oh man, what can you do with Shion? What can
Yeah,
you do with Junior? What can you do with Chaos, who I had know nothing about still? So I'm excited to see what they do with other characters because of that.
I was I do absolutely agree. The character work in this game is phenomenal. Like I think it's not the Cherenkov stuff is excellent. I really enjoyed the depths of Ziggy's character. For what little we got to see of his backstory. And I
I
really
wanted
and it,
more Ziggy. I was gonna say that later, but go ahead.
yeah, I know I really wanted more Ziggy too. But like even that little discussion they were having, about him before he makes his entrance, the Federation people, when they're talking about like the human rights and about like, oh, here is this man who wants to become more like a machine when everyone, all these other machines are wanting to be treated as men these days. It's like that is a really fascinating philosophical debate to bring to the forefront. And Characters like Junior, I know Junior. I know for a fact that Junior is going to get more stuff in the next game. Even it's the kind of I feel like really all these side characters are where a lot of these themes and interesting stuff are being explored. I don't really see it with Shion, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of her, at least not in this game. I think she spends a lot of time being protagonist cooning her way around the universe, and I know she has like this big "reason you suck" speech during Albedo's like their first confrontation with Albedo, and it's like it's almost like, oh yeah, you're here too.
Well, the thing is, we talked about this in the previous episode. There are so many different kinds of human in this game, and they're all either coming to terms with their humanity or experiencing humanity in a different way. Cherenkov is a mutant who desperately wants a place in society that keeps rejecting him, and he feels betrayed until gives him purpose. And Ziggy is trying to reject his own humanity. Cosmos is following her protocol and maybe discovering her own humanity or empathy, or maybe not. At the end of the game, I'm not sure if Cosmos was really truly empathizing and wanting to save her team, or if she was just still following her protocol and just knew that she would be able to survive those explosions. I could go either way on that. And and Momo is a Realian, so is a synthetic human that does have some human rights, but but is sort of like desperate for sisterhood with the other 100 series Realians, and desperate for a father-daughter relationship with her memory of Joaquin Mizrahi. But the reality of Mizrahi isn't the same as her memory of him. Like all of these arcs are really interesting, but maybe it's the Dragon Quest fan in me. In Dragon Quest games are extremely consistent in wrapping up their narrative arcs with tidy bows. But they like almost they will deliberately close every loop they open. But Xenosaga has so much intrigue and closes so very few of those loops, and does so with some frustrations to his game design that I found myself too frustrated sometimes. Again, if this
I
game,
think
if this trilogy wraps up most of what it started by the end of the third game, that's probably amazing. But I'm not sure I want to play 3 games to get there. It's and also I mean I mentioned that in the previous episode that maybe the arc I was most interested in was Ziggy's, because I hadn't gotten to all the Cherenkov stuff when we recorded the previous episode. I really want more Ziggy. Like he is such an interesting contrast to the other kinds of characters. I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't get more Ziggy flashbacks in the midst of all of these Shion and Junior and Cherenkov flashbacks uh, that were uh, in the sort of first 2 big segments of the game. This is a good cast. I just uh, I felt a little bit of like I was staring off the edge of a cliff. And also, what the hell is Chaos's deal? I'm
Chaos is
he
just there to be cryptic and deliver exposition, and also speak.
he's maybe the character among the main cast with the second most empathy, because he is a gentle soul in general. But I mean, Shion is a wellspring of infinite empathy, and that's maybe her most defining character trait. Either that or her relationship with Cosmos, which is somewhere in between sister, daughter, and like long lost memento of her ex fiance. I don't know what Chaos's deal is. He's extremely casual about his ability to destroy Gnosis, but other than that, I don't know. I'm not sure we know a single damn thing about him.
I
You'll
would say
He,
he's probably he's probably Jesus or something.
wait until the last 5 minutes of episode 3. I'm kidding. Kinda.
like, I mean,
I definitely plan on playing episode 3, and probably watching the cutscenes for 2, because I do want to see how this all wraps up. And I've heard that game is really good, but yeah, it's the getting there is definitely a little bit frustrating. I wanted to compare this actually slightly to another game series that was coming around the same time. Because I think what's weird to me about Xenosaga is that they change gameplay styles with every game. Like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if they're responding to criticism and trying to iterate. But when I think of an episodic RPG series with an ongoing, complicated story that was also a multimedia thing, I think about something like Dot Hack, where Dot Hack was basically one game that they split into 4 and released over the course of like several months. Like, and it was the same game. Your stats and levels carried over, and it also had all this other ancillary stuff that you had to like check out. It was a very vague, very cryptic story that was full of a lot of proper nouns and a lot of intrigue, and you had to kind of work outside the box in order to get all of it. But I don't know. I feel like if I vibed with Xenosaga's gameplay more, and they just released like more episodes, and they were actually episodes, like, oh, this is an extension of the game you were just playing, I feel like I would probably be more into it. Instead, I feel like episode 1 is like a beta test. Episode 2 is a mistake, and then episode 3 they finally got it right, but it's too late.
Yeah, Xenosaga was a very ambitious project that could be definitely compared to Dot Hack because it had multiple multimedia projects, the anime, which wasn't that good, and there was several drama CDs. There was as I mentioned last episode, the Ziggy cell phone game. So if you wanted to know more about Ziggy, you had to play that cell phone game that never made it out of
Jesus
Japan.
Christ. With
Um,
I say Jesus Christ with the knowledge that there's a real possibility that Ziggy is the actual real Jesus Christ.
I did link the Xenosaga wiki page in the chat.
well,
Ranking the 6 main characters and who is the most likely to be Jesus Christ, I'm putting Chaos number 1, probably Cosmos number 2, and Ziggy number 3. That's right, and Alan dead last. But
Alan is the secret MVP of the whole series.
oh no.
When we see the real Zarathustra was the Alan we met along the way.
he gets his
Oh
day.
no, is Zohar like a weird mistranslation of Zoroaster?
I think so, actually. I
Because
think that
Zoroaster is the Greek name of Zarathustra.
and that is a term that does, because the Zohar was a thing in Xenogears, right? It's been so long.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
basically has a very very similar connection to Xenogears.
And Zoroastrianism was a Central Asian religion that definitely influenced Judaism and Christianity with some of its concepts, even though it didn't necessarily lead to Judeo-Christian religion. It influenced it, and Zoroaster was its originator. Maybe calling Zoroaster a prophet is misleading, but I
Well,
wouldn't be surprised if there's Zoroastrian references in this game.
well, yeah, and the Zohar. I I I wasn't certain myself, but it is said to be a foundational work in the literature of Jewish mysticism. So it's
So it's like is it a text similar to Kabbalah or something?
yes,
Okay.
or but yeah, that
Good.
stuff pops up a lot.
Yeah, Kabbalah is I'm pretty sure it's pre-Torah a Jewish mystic text. But and that's where a lot of words that we've probably heard before, like Axarioth and Sephiroth, come from. But
Mhm.
I don't know enough about Judeo-Christian texts to talk about them with any authority.
Oh, me
But
neither.
Yeah,
Me
I mean,
neither.
according to Wikipedia, the Zohar is a foundational work in the literature of Jewish mystical thought known as Kabbalah.
oh, okay,
So
okay,
I
okay.
guess
So
the two are
all right. So
part of it.
Zohar is a
Yeah,
text within Kabbalah. All right, that makes sense.
discussions of the nature of God, the origin and structure of the universe, etc., etc., and the relationship of ego to darkness and true self to the light of God. So it definitely is playing into some of those identity themes as well that we discussed.
Oh, yes, it is. But let's talk about the story a little bit more because after the arc with the Gnosis attack and everything that when you spend some time on the Gnosis Cathedral ship where all the Cherenkov stuff takes place. There's the sting operation from the Federation that was set up by Utik as a ploy to try and get a hold of Momo, which you mentioned earlier. But the sort of next dungeon sequence is your group is divided in half as they jump into uh Cosmos's consciousness with Shion performing something called a dive so they can get information from Cosmos uh, like without and obtain it for themselves before they have to hand it over to the Federation government. And that is a multi-layer series of flashbacks where I confusingly went over some of them before with the stuff with Junior's memory as a sort of as a URTV soldier in the battle against Udo. Again, I wanted to say Udo every time I saw Udo, but he but again,
Udo.
I don't always agree with pronunciation in this game. But this is sort of a multi-layered series of flashbacks for multiple characters. I think basically everyone, maybe everyone besides Chaos, gets a flashback in the was it called the Encephalodon?
Encephalon.
Encephalon, right? The Encephalon sequence. What as Zach? You've played Xenosaga 1, but haven't played the future games. Of these flashbacks that are somewhat unresolved, what's one that stands out to you?
Definitely stuff with Shion, and and trying to kind of parse out because like they say like it's Cosmos's memories, but they're your memories, and like you have to remember. And like there's this idea consistently that like you need to like remember what's happening there. And again, I think it's the idea of like memory and identity. And so I was really intrigued by the stuff with Nephilim. Although obviously this is where she like literally says, "And you'll find out later." But I thought that it had like a very particular feel, and I like this idea of like memories sort of as filtered through Cosmos, as filtered through Shion, as filtered through um Nephilim, and like sort of what that says about Shion. I thought was really interesting. I think that Junior is a really interesting character too, just because like we know he's old, but he still acts like a kid. And I think that sort of getting a feel for maybe why that is interesting in here too. I actually really I really like this dungeon because of the like the number of cutscenes you get throughout the dungeon, despite the fact that it is also very long. And it's also I think when I started to get a feel for like how to abuse the combat, like I was like, oh, I have all enemy text. Let me pour all my points into that, and now battles are a breeze. And so I think this is where like I was like, all right, I was getting into a rhythm with the game a little bit, so I enjoyed it.
You know what? I'm a little bit surprised that we've gone all this way, and we've mentioned him a few times, but really didn't do a deep dive into Albedo yet. Because
God, I
if there's a
love
single
this man.
if
Oh
there's a
man.
single NPC that jumps out of the screen in this entire trilogy, it's probably, even though I don't have any knowledge of the second or third game, it's Albedo. You see him a couple times in early on. You definitely know that, oh, this is a named guy that's important. He definitely works for UTIC, but I don't know that much about him. He sort of using an image of Joaquin Mizrahi, he distracts Momo during the evacuation of Kukai Foundation and kidnaps her. And in by far the most unsettling part of this entire game, he he taunts and mocks Momo, like sort of revels in his own power and feelings through his body, rips off his hands only for them to regenerate, rips off his own head only to keep talking to
With
Momo.
multiple Shakespeare references in the
Yes.
middle of it.
In
Oh
the in
man.
the
It's
in the
wild.
I mean in the Japanese version he used a knife to cut off his arm and head, but I feel like this is still
I think it's actually like less disturbing.
The Western censorship, weirdly enough, made that scene
but
worse because now he's tearing off his own head and with
yes,
complete with crunching and tearing and splattering
I
sounds,
love it.
and it's like
Yes.
Oh my god! And all the while, this dude is just monologuing away, cackling like a madman. Yeah, Albedo is a great villain. He's absolutely owns every scene he's in.
And he's surrounded by corpses of 100 series aliens. So basically, little girls that look like Momo but have different coloration in their hair and clothes. And again, these aliens are Momo thinks of them as sisters, but they think of her as the one of them that was stolen by their father that they were desperate for attention for. Like this is there are a non-trivial amount of mommy and daddy issues in this game. Um, uh like it is so unsettling, especially since like I don't do great with horror, and I know, and one thing that particularly bothers me in horror is when there are little kids with dark powers freaking you out. Like I'm not I am not a bad seed guy or a the cornfield episode of the Twilight Zone guy. No thanks. But for these child android humans to be just the corpses of them to be littered around Albedo while he is mugging for the camera was so wild. Albedo is an over the top agent of chaos villain that is so compelling. Like again, he is a little cartoonishly evil and over the top, but in a way that is extremely fun.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very different kind of villain than Cherenkov. Like Cherenkov is suffering and is full of regret, and going into his past makes you like sympathize and care for him. While Albedo is just a maniac. But you know what, Albedo, you do you.
It's just like unfiltered nihilism.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fascinating. Because if you really think about what he's saying, like he's basically he's like spouting off every like nihilistic piece of nonsense you've ever heard in your whole life. As like again, like sort of the dark side of Nietzsche, right? So like he's hilariously over the top. But also like having just come off of Xenoblade 3, I was like, this is the cartoon villain you were going for with all of the consoles. Like this is way more engaging than what you did there,
Yeah.
when all those psychopaths were just boring. Whereas here, he has I guess a perspective to some degree, although that perspective doesn't really make any sense, which I'm sure is part of the point, right? But like he's fascinating.
Yeah, he's bug nuts crazy, presumably because of exposure to Udo. Um, but at the same time, he also definitely has, say what you will, but he has an ethos.
And he sort of simultaneously loves Junior and wants to kill Junior, because basically when they were a unit of URTV soldiers battling the forces of Udo and Gnosis, um, Junior detached himself from their neural link, which saved Junior, but also allowed the influence of Udo within Albedo. At least I think this is what's happening. I could be off base with at least parts of this.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
But so Albedo has this complicated relationship with Junior where he wants him to suffer for his betrayal, but also he's reveling in his status as an ascended being, being a URTV full of Udo juice, or however it works.
Well, not to, I guess, jump ahead to the future, but the second game really goes into Albedo's reasonings for why he does what he does, and the whole URTV storyline's really explored in episode 2, which is probably the best part about that game.
And you know what? We're talking about all these different kinds of people. I still don't know what the hell chaos is. This is
All I know is that I have to kill him. That's all I'm aware of.
No.
oh,
Don't
no.
kill this chaos. Not this one.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit that like the level of like, because like a couple of times people were like, "Oh, what are you gonna do about this?" And he seems to like sort of be standing over everything as this like semi god who's like entrenched in life somehow. I'm guessing is what he is. I don't know. I know that Mary Magdalene comes up at some point in this game, so my point is like I know it's going some wild places, but because I know that, I'm like, I'm sure he's just like, as you said earlier, he's probably Jesus. So there you go. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and also there's like when they're in the Encephalon, we meet a Realian named Fabronia that was involved in Shion's past, and her two sister Realians that are playing Ring Around the Rosie around a dead tree, trapped in an illusion that they're in a sunny meadow, and Nephilim won't explain who they are, what their deal is. There was the prototype Cosmos went berserk in the event from 2 years ago that they've mentioned multiple times in this game, and that proto Cosmos is maybe what killed Shion's fiance Kevin.
Oh
But
yeah.
and it's unclear if that Cosmos was destroyed, or if that one was remade into the current Cosmos, or if that old Cosmos is still
She
around.
she was destroyed. She was
Oh,
shot
she
in the
was
head.
destroyed. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then like she has powers that apparently only Kevin could infuse her with, like X
Mm.
Buster. So yeah, that's another
Oh, X
mystery.
Busters. So this game is actually Mega Man X, and Cosmos is a Reploid. A new Reploids are the eighth kind of artificial human that we're introducing here.
For the record, I used X Buster in almost every single fight.
Oh my
and that
god,
is
it's
one long
so
animation.
you can
It's
skip.
cool.
Did you ever skip it?
You can skip animations in this game in fights.
Well, only the CGI animations. So
Like the all enemy tech things that
yeah,
sometimes they have. Oh, I didn't even know that. I really wish
I
I'd
think I
known
have this.
that.
I think I figured it out now. Sigma from Mega Man X is Udo, and the Sigma virus that's infecting Reploids and turning them into Mavericks doesn't work on X because X was in quarantine for 100 years, which makes X the URTV of the Mega Man series.
I'm
Awesome.
gonna
Now I
say
perfectly
yes.
understand all of this. You just need to reduce it. If you can reduce things into terms relating to Mega Man or food, then I understand it much, much better. But okay, all right, back to Xenosaga. There's so much I don't understand. That I think I might have like literally smacked my arm against my forehead when the masked man that like separates you from Albedo like takes off his mask and is Virgil from the first few hours of the game. Like, what's he doing back? Why him? Um, is it because he has so much hatred for Cosmos and Shion? Is that what got him on the side of Utic? I don't know what that's about. Although I'm sure he shows up in later Xenosaga games. Again, I still don't understand what Proto Merkaba is. Well, I understand that it was a super weapon invented by Joaquin Mizrahi, but it just came out of like not. It didn't just come out of left field. It came out of the left field of the next stadium over.
So I'm actually a little confused about Virgil myself. Not because I mean, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Okay, how did you survive this? Whatever. I'm sure they'll get into it. But I'm pretty sure because there's a red dude in a plague doctor costume who works for Vector. So does he also work for Vector secretly, or is he working for Utic?
I
Like
think
I'm just
Virgil's definitely part of Utic because he's a colleague of Albedo, and Albedo refers to him as the new guy.
and there is that point where Virgil was talking to someone in his head, and it was the voice of the red masked person. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, and the red masked person works for Vector. And I already know who the
It's
red masked person is. I'm not going to say it on
okay. I have
stream,
no idea
but
who it is, but so Virgil. All right. So either Vector has moles within Utic, or Utic has moles within Vector, or both.
he's actually a
I think
triple
the answer
agent.
is probably both.
I mean I don't
It's all
trust
very incestuous.
I don't trust any of these organizations as a monolith. Monolith. But the
Uh,
but yeah, I'm not surprised if there are multiple anime betrayals in our future in this series. And Proto Merkaba, I mean it's a super weapon that was invented by Mizrahi that but Albedo needed the memory banks within Momo and sort of very unsettlingly accessed her mind to get them.
Yeah, I'm not
And
a big fan of that scene. Not a
it
big
would
fan of the sound
no,
that
it is
was
effects.
unsettling.
also censored for the US version,
Oh, good.
Yeah,
but
so, you
in
know,
it, like the anime and the DS game follow the American censorship after this, so American censorship is better in this situation as well.
That's a not a YouTube Safari I'm going to be investigating. No
yeah,
thanks.
I think I'm gonna end up on a government watch list if I look this up. So
God.
But I think we can agree that I mean Proto Merkaba sort of serves as the game's final dungeon. There's the final boss encounter is the giant powerful reactor that powers Proto Merkaba combines with a large gnosis, and upon that its defeat, like they're going to destroy Proto Merkaba, but they have someone needs to stay behind to make sure that it self destructs properly. Cosmos ends up volunteering because she believes that based on her programming and her analysis of multiple outcomes is the way for everyone to survive most easily. And I mentioned this earlier in this episode. It's unclear to me if Cosmos really was doing this out of pure pragmatism, or was she expressing selflessness and empathy that she had only hinted at earlier in the game.
I mean, I think that's a question we're supposed to have.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Mhm.
Cosmos's journey to discover her humanity. I again, I don't know Xenosaga 2 or 3. Feels like a major through line of the Xenosaga series. Like I would be. I mean, Tyler, am I at least a little bit right in assuming that?
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, yeah, she's definitely a big part of the series overall, and yeah, you'll learn more in the future. Unfortunately, that's the answer for everything in this
I
game.
was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, but it's another series of long cutscenes. Again, you might have just replaced Deville Zermacht with long cutscenes as this game's subtitle. Xenosaga Episode 1, some long cutscenes.
I was just happy that I'm like again didn't make it there myself, but I do know that the final boss has a different battle theme.
It
So
Oh,
does.
that's actually
thank God for
one of
that,
the
and it's a good
reasons I didn't
song.
cheese that boss, because like I went into it, I went and we haven't talked about this at all, but like one of the things you do throughout the game is you go and gather these segment addresses, and you have to go back into like your memory banks of those places sometimes to go open these doors. And there's a very specific thing you can do, which is get some summons for Shion. And the last one is basically just like a super summon that does 9,999 damage, which is a lot of damage in this game, enough to one shot the final boss. And I got it because at the time, I was like, oh man, these battles are taking too long. This is frustrating me. And then once I got the hang of it, I was fine. But I still planned to kind of cheese the last dungeon. But then I was like, I don't really need to. But I still was going to do the last boss. And then there was like, oh, new music. Never mind. I will fight this fight for real. Yeah, I think the thing that's frustrating about the music in this game is the times that we don't get like the same two like battle theme and run away from things themes. Like you get some real Mitsuda like there, and like some of the final the final cutscene has some new music as well.
Yeah,
Like this is phenomenal.
in the final cutscene going into the credits, I think there's two vocal themes back to
Yes,
back.
Kokoro and Pain, and they're
And it's
just
so
great.
good. Yeah, and the final boss theme is also just a stone cold banger. So yeah, if I have one major criticism of this game, it's the misuse of Mitsuda. I mean, come on, you had the guy, use him more.
You had the guy with a full orchestra, and maybe it was just expensive. I don't know, but it's a sparse soundtrack, and unfortunately, underutilized.
Yeah,
Not that the music in the game is bad; it's just the songs that
I
are
got a little
used
tired of
too
the battle
much.
theme. Let me say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
yeah. I mean, this goes into I guess complaints that both Peter and I had throughout this episode. This game has so many cool concepts and ideas, and it's abundantly clear that they couldn't fit as much as they wanted to in this game. And as a result, it feels like it has weird pacing and sort of too much in some areas and not enough in other areas. So this is a unique. I'm not sure this game would get made nowadays because it takes so many risks that and to have cutscenes like these at modern visual standards would cost millions and millions of dollars. Like this game would not get made nowadays, so it's admirable for everything that it attempts. But again, I don't think it quite sticks the landing on some of those things it attempts. And it took maybe 3 games to have a game to because I mean, by all accounts, the third episode 3 of Xenosaga uh, does have conclusions to some of the story arcs and is probably the best playing of the trilogy. So is that fairly
Yeah,
accurate, Tyler?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
I
All right.
would say so. Yeah.
So like it took them 3 games to maybe accomplish most of what they wanted to accomplish, but you get sort of 2 messy ones along the way, and I'm not sure I'm going to come back to this game, which leads me to one final question that we hinted at before. I'm sure this has been asked 1,000 times. Would this game be better as an anime? I feel like this game would make an amazing like serial HBO drama. If this was like a 16 episode live action drama on Netflix or Max that was like a Westworld, I think this it could be really awesome because it like an hour long drama would be able to put up these flashbacks and intrigue and
Mhm.
pay off them at a pace that is not isn't shackled by being a JRPG that feels like it needs to have JRPG dungeons.
It's interesting because like you and Peter in particular, as you guys are talking about this, and I'm not saying that you are wrong about this, but I think that for me, like as you're playing the game, especially in like those last 3 or 4 hours of cutscenes, like where you're getting all this information dumped, like if you watch it as like just a cutscene, like there's not any downtime. And so like as you're going through these dungeons, they're long and whatever. I feel like I'm processing the information. So I don't think that I felt as much as I was playing the game as you guys do, like I was just getting like this massive amount of information just dumped on me. Like, sure, I felt like that a little bit, of course, but I also thought that like that little bit of downtime would work there. Now, that isn't to say that you couldn't build it differently in an HBO drama, where you have some of those more quiet moments, like that Trenkov moment or whatever, where it's working. But I'm not sure. Honestly, I know the anime exists and it's not very good, which obviously doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't work as an HBO drama. But I really appreciate that this game is trying to do something, and it might not totally pull it off. But I'm so tired of JRPGs and RPGs in general that insult my intelligence by just being like simple and stupid and shouting everything at me constantly, that I can deal with something that has some ambition to do something serious that doesn't pull it off more than I can deal with something that doesn't have ambition and that wastes my time. So I guess for me, like I like that it breaks things up in the way that it does, and it's not perfect, but I think it works.
I would enjoy the cutscenes more if I experienced them over the course of a long game instead of watching them over a period of 3 days. That is definitely true. But I also just I found the first long dungeon that I hit in this game to be a bit of a slog. And they're not giving you a slow drip of information in the dungeons, right? They're mostly the dungeons are fairly empty.
I mean, I think it's true to some degree. I think in
Depends on the
Encephalon in
dungeon.
particular, they do a
Yeah,
really good
yeah.
job.
The Encephalon actually does spread out the cutscenes
Yeah.
pretty well. But I was thinking more of the cathedral ship, but
Mm.
like I don't know. This I think that this is a bunch of awesome story ideas that doesn't deliver enough on the RPG portion of the RPG. So that was what made me think the thought that probably has been said 1,000 times.
Yeah, no, I think
Well,
it's a reasonable question.
would this have been better in a medium other than a game? Like, and I'm not surprised that it had an anime series and drama CDs. I probably wouldn't mind listening to a drama CD of this. Oh, you know what? This shouldn't be an HBO drama. This should be a narrative podcast.
But it's not hard to see why this game didn't take off the way that they wanted to, because it's not even I can get behind the story having grand ambitions, and I do legitimately find it interesting. But just as a game, it's not fun. It's slow. It's turgid. It does a very poor job of explaining itself. There's it simply it does not make a good first impression, and I don't think it would have done a good job of drawing in audiences to be like, yeah, you want more of this, unless you were already on board with it to begin with. Like, you're not going to get mass market appeal with a game like Xenosaga Episode 1. And regrettably, it sounded like Bandai Namco was definitely hoping for a lot more out of this than it got.
Yeah, no,
I know it was just Namco at the time, but still, sorry.
I really respect this game's ambition, and this is a good story, and I'm glad that it paid off into a good third game. But I also feel bad. I think if I had played it through, I would like it more. But because I just had a difficult, busy December, I wasn't able to play it through, so I did not experience Xenosaga in an ideal way. And but like I can tell why so many people love this game. but it just the timing and the situation was not good for me. So I don't know if I'm gonna finish this. Probably not. I'm much more interested in playing Xenoblade 2 than I am Xenosaga 2, because I do have a copy of Xenoblade 2 ready to roll.
That is a really good game.
But I am more likely to fire up Xenoblade 2 than I am to finish Xenosaga 1, which is unfortunate. But I mean, at least Cosmos is cool. I mean, and I'm pretty sure that I can use her or find her in Xenoblade 2. So
Good
maybe
luck.
so that'll well you thank you, but I have surprising RPG luck sometimes. That
Not as
other
good as Izzy, who pulled Cosmos as their second rare blade.
Oh my
oh, that's pretty
god.
good. That's pretty good.
That's unbelievable.
It really is. Jealous.
I did win a Bahamut card playing Triple Triad in Final Fantasy 14, which is something like a 0.3% drop from a
That's impressive.
from a
That is impressive.
from a difficult card battle. Yeah, I think I'm the only person that got the Bahamut card from that and not the actual Bahamut boss fight. But all right, if we're talking about my surprising RPG luck and narrative podcasts, oh, they could just have a season 2 of S Town and have it called Shion Town instead. Um, maybe we're near the end of the episode. But thank you so much, Peter, Zach, and Tyler for going through this journey that I only half completed. And Tyler, I know that Xenosaga is a particular favorite of yours. So thank you for dealing with my dumbass for 2 or so hours.
No, you're totally fine. It was a nice, fun discussion.
And well, at least half of the panel played through Xenosaga and enjoyed their time with it. Now coming into 2023, we have the first couple games of the year planned, and the first of which being Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. I'm slightly dreading firing up my Wii to play that thing because I don't know if an N64 RTS RPG is something that I'll be able to experience smoothly, but we'll see. I'm going to give that game an earnest attempt very, very soon, and we'll discuss that over 2 episodes in January. We're also doing an episode on Pokemon and an episode on RPG fashion sometime throughout the month. We have not recorded those yet. We're starting to get our 2023 plans in motion. But before that, next week we're having our annual year in review episode. It's going to be a good time. 2022 was dense with video games, so I don't know how long that episode's going to be or what games we'll discuss, but there are so many that we will definitely not run out of things to talk about in our year in review episode next week. We've done a year in review episode of Retro every year since 2015, so this will be number 8, which is mind-blowing to me that we've been on the air for 7.5 years. But listeners, whether you're here for Ogre Battle or Xenosaga or Pokemon or something else, the best way to get in contact with us and learn more about the podcast is to email retro@rpgfan.com or listen to our archive of 356 prior episodes. You can find RPG Fan on Facebook, on Twitter as RPG Fancom, on Instagram as RPG Fancom, or RPG Fan Discord, YouTube, Twitch, something going on in all of those places every day. RPG Fan also has a shop that was implemented earlier this year, rpgfan.com/shop, where you can buy RPG Fan merch of many different flavors. That's the best way to support us with your dollars. And you can also support us by listening to our other podcasts. There's Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness, Rhythm Encounter every other 2 weeks about RPG music. Please listen to all 3 of our podcasts and review them on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon, however you listen to podcasts. But guys, thank you, all 3 of you for putting up with me for, oh boy, all these years of podcasts. Most recently, talking about Xenosaga.
That
Yeah,
was a good
man.
time.
Hey,
Thanks for
we
having
love to
us.
do it.
Good way to end it this year.
Yeah, this is the last game journal of 2022. But before we sign off, we got to share our social media while Twitter still exists. So starting with you, Zach.
The best way to reach me is via email, zachw@rpgfan.com. You can also find me on RPG Fans Discord at zachw.
Now, Peter.
You can find me at I Have Fury on Twitter. At the moment, my account is private just because of Elon Musk related shenanigans that I don't want to be exposed to. But you can still try to follow me. I might let you if you're nice.
Oh, does that, I'm not nice at all. Does that mean I have to unfollow you, or I'm getting kicked out? Have I already been? Have I already been
you're
kicked out?
you're like one of the 6 people who like regularly engages with my stuff. Please stay.
All right,
Oh.
now, Tyler, how can people find you online?
They can find me at Cosmos Chaos on Twitter, and if you want to hear me talk about more Zeno shenanigans, Xenochat podcast is our Twitter for my Zeno related podcast series. That's it.
And probably also searching for Xenochat, spelled with an X, of course, on your regular podcast services would be able to find that show, correct?
Exactly. Thank you.
Right on. All right, well, listeners, if you want to find me on Twitter, I mostly tweet about video games and how bad DC and Baltimore sports teams are doing. I am at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs at other times, and on RPG Fans Discord, I am Monsoon Mike. So, oh boy, we're recording this a couple days before the big holiday in December, so I have some gifts to wrap, which, hopefully wraps cleaner than how this storyline wrapped. Thank you. Good night. And good luck.
Dang.
Good night, Cosmos.